Police in Turkey have recovered a Bible thought to be 1,000 years old. The holy book, which was found in the central Turkish city of Tokat, is written in the old Assyriac language.
What's all the excitement about this ancient book that's got scientists on the edge of their seats? This old manuscript, emerging from centuries of obscurity, has ignited a fire of curiosity in the scientific world. With its enigmatic origins and elusive author, it's become the talk of the town among experts, sparking heated debates. Could it be a relic from a lost civilization, or does it hold secrets of a more mystical nature? Join us to uncover the darkest secrets of this ancient book. Chapter 1. The most ancient blueprint in human history, decoding Surya Siddhanta. The Surya Siddhanta is an important ancient text about the stars and planets, believed to be written long ago, around the 4th to 5th centuries CE. Some people think it might even have older roots. This book, written in Sanskrit, is one of the first to describe how to figure out where celestial bodies, like the sun, moon, and stars, move in the sky. It's a key work for understanding ancient Hindu views of the universe, and has played a big role in the early study of the stars in India. Looking back, it seems that the Surya Siddhanta might have been shaped by conversations between the ancient scholars of India and those from Hellenistic Greece, maybe after Alexander the Great visited India. The way this text in Greek star studies, especially those by a scientist named Hipparchus, share ideas suggests that these two cultures share their knowledge of the stars with each other. But it's also possible that they came up with their ideas separately because there's no clear sign they directly copied specific words or methods from each other. The Surya Siddhanta is really impressive for its time because it includes very detailed ways to use triangles and math to understand the sky. For example, it talks about how to use a circle with a certain size to work out the sine, a mathematical function, of different angles with incredible accuracy. This exchange of star knowledge between India and Greece shows how people from different parts of the world can learn from each other. The Surya Siddhanta's math for predicting the positions of celestial bodies was way ahead of its time. By providing calculations for the sign of angles using a circle of a specific size, the text showcases the advanced understanding of geometry and mathematics among ancient scholars. This not only highlights the sophistication of ancient Indian astronomy, but also its influence on and from other cultures, weaving a rich tapestry of shared knowledge that contributed to the global understanding of the cosmos. The work done in the Surya Siddhanta on astronomy is deeply important. It gives very accurate figures for how long the tropical year and the sidereal year are, and these figures are very close to what scientists today believe to be true. It also gives very exact guesses for how big Mercury and Saturn are. These big achievements show how people in ancient India had a deep understanding of space and stars, and how this old text has had a lasting impact on the study of the sky. The text also says that it comes from a god, told to humans millions of years ago. This shows how people back then thought about science and spirituality as connected, with learning about the sky seen as a way to understand the sacred order of the universe. The Surya Siddhanta doesn't just talk about the math and movements of the planets. It also talks about big cycles of time and how time can move differently in different situations. This shows a really advanced way of thinking about the universe that brings together careful watching of the sky with deep thoughts about life in the world. Moreover, the Surya Siddhanta talks about ideas that would be very important for science later on, like the force that makes things fall to the ground, which we now call gravity. It explained this idea way before it was talked about in the West, saying that things fall because there's a force pulling them to Earth. This is a lot like the law of gravity that Newton talked about much later. The text also explores how time can seem to move differently, which is something that scientists today still think about a lot when they try to understand space and time. This shows how the text was way ahead of its time, mixing careful observation with big questions about how the universe works. Let's explore the simple truths behind space's biggest ideas. Chapter 2. A Cosmic Puzzle, the Legacy of Ancient Astronomers. Now think about gravity like magic. It's what pulls you back down when you jump. A long time ago, a clever man named Isaac Newton figured out this magic pull and named it gravity. He discovered that gravity is why the moon goes around the Earth and planets circle the sun. This was a big discovery because it helped people understand why things in space move the way they do. Now think of space as a giant puzzle. It has stars, planets, galaxies, and a lot of empty space. Galaxies are like big groups of stars, and our home Earth is part of one called the Milky Way. Earth is just one planet among many. By looking at the stars with telescopes, scientists have learned a lot about how these groups of stars and planets live together in the huge universe. Before clocks, people used stars and planets to tell time. They looked at the sky and used it like a calendar and clock to plan their days. Now we have super precise clocks called atomic clocks. They use tiny particles called atoms to measure time very accurately. These clocks help us do many things, like setting our phones and helping ships and planes navigate. When we think about space, we understand how important it is to know about gravity and the stars. From learning about the invisible force that keeps us on Earth to using stars to tell time and find out where we are in the universe, these simple ideas show us how much we've learned about the huge space around us. People had different ideas about how Earth moves in space a long time ago. Some thought everything in the sky went around the Earth. This idea is called the geocentric model. But then a smart man named Copernicus had a new idea. He thought the Earth and other planets go around the sun. This idea is called the heliocentric model. Now we know he was right. We've used special tools to learn more about how Earth moves. We found out it moves in a path shaped like an oval, which was explained by Kepler's laws. Even without modern tools, ancient astronomers were really good at understanding space. They watched the sky a lot, wrote down what they saw, and used their brains to make math models about the stars and planets. It's amazing to think about how much they knew just by looking at the sky and thinking about it. Long ago, there were space experts who made incredibly accurate observations about the stars and planets. This is really amazing when you think about it. They were very smart and good at noticing details. What they figured out a long time ago helped create the space science we have now. Every new thing we learn about space is built on what they started. This shows us that curiosity and attention to the world can lead to amazing things. When we talk more about this, we realize how much humans have learned over time. We used to think that everything in space moved around the Earth, but now we know that's not true. This change in thinking shows how curious and smart humans are. The old astronomers didn't have modern tools, but they still came up with ways to study the stars. This really shows how good humans are at watching and thinking things through. Looking back at how our understanding of space has changed over time is not just about astronomy. It also celebrates how much humans want to understand the universe. These ancient astronomers were like detectives, using their eyes and minds to solve the sky's mysteries. They didn't have telescopes or computers, but they used what they had to make sense of the stars. Their work is like a bridge that connects the past to the present. Every time we look up at the night sky and understand a little more, we're following in their footsteps. Now we dive into the past to uncover secrets from ancient texts. Chapter 3, Unlocking the Past, Secrets of the Egyptian Dream Book. Studying old texts to understand what people knew in the past is like trying to solve a big, complicated puzzle. We look closely at different parts like stories, old objects, and how people lived in history to better understand what happened back then. When we try to figure out what these old texts mean, we use different ways of thinking about history. Some methods focus on what leaders did long ago, while others look into how business and trade worked. Some think deeply about big ideas in philosophy, while others pay attention to the everyday lives of ordinary people to learn more about history. Each way of looking at things helps us find more information about the interesting details hidden in these ancient writings. We don't just look at the words themselves. We think hard about what they mean and what they tell us about how people thought and lived a long time ago. A good example of such text is the Emerald Tablet, a mysterious object that some believe holds secrets about the universe. Where it came from is a mystery, with stories saying it was found in the tomb of Hermes Trismegistus or connected to the legendary Atlantis. People interested in alchemy, which is an old mix of science and mystical ideas about understanding the world in both a spiritual and physical way, find this tablet very intriguing. Even though it's very old and has been around for centuries, we still don't fully understand what the tablet means. This keeps us curious and encourages us to keep studying and asking questions about its mysterious contents. Another interesting old document is the Egyptian Dream Book, which goes back to the time of the famous Pharaoh Ramesses II. This paper is special because it talks about how ancient Egyptians understood dreams, dividing them into good and bad experiences. This shows how important dreams were in their culture, as they were seen as signs of what could happen in real life. The Copper Scroll is different from other Dead Sea Scrolls because it lists hidden treasures instead of religious teachings. This shows that ancient writings can be very different, ranging from holy lessons to lists of secret riches. When we study these old writings, it's like we're peeping into history. These writings give us hints about how people in the past lived, what they believed in, and how they understood the world. Historians and scientists have to work hard to figure out which parts of these texts are true and which parts are just myths. They listen to old stories that people have told for generations and check them against what's written down. By doing this, they try to guess what really happened. This helps us learn a lot about the cultures, societies, and thoughts of people who lived a long, long time ago. When people study ancient writings, they often wonder if the writings are real, if they've been translated right, and if they're being understood correctly. To find out, experts study how people used to write in the past, look closely at the texts, and try to figure out what they really mean. They work hard to make sure these ancient documents are reliable and to understand their true messages. This careful work is really important. It helps us figure out when something is just a metaphor or when it's meant to be taken literally, see when something is meant to be funny or sarcastic, and understand how the meanings of words have changed over time. To do this, researchers really get into studying how writing has changed over time. They look at texts critically, questioning where they came from and if they're true. They also use different ways to understand what's really behind the words. This isn't just about finding out what's true. It's also about understanding the culture and history that influence these writings. This way, they can tell apart what's symbolic and what's factual, notice any hidden jokes or sarcasm, and see how language has changed, making some phrases mean something different now than they did back then. This deep look into the text is super important to really get what these ancient writings are about, letting us see their beauty and complexity in the context of their time. Next, we enter the world of Hindu texts, where myths meet deep truths. Chapter 4. Karma and Cosmos, Lessons from the Mahabharata. In Hindu culture, the importance of certain texts is really big. They are like the base for both their religion and deep thinking about life. The stories from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata are not just great stories. They are also like a treasure chest full of lessons on how to be good and do the right thing. These stories teach about Dharma, which means doing the right thing, Karma, which is about what happens because of what you do, and Moksha, which is about breaking free from being born over and over again. These big stories are a key part of Hindu myths and give people a lot to think about when it comes to how people interact, why it's important to do your duty, and how to follow the path of being righteous. People often talk about whether these stories should be taken as true stories or more like lessons through tales. This discussion shows how complex these texts are. Some people think the characters and events really happened, while others see them as stories with deeper meanings, meant to teach us bigger truths about life and spirituality. This two-way view makes these texts more valuable because they can be understood and loved in many different ways. The way these epics show gods and their actions as examples of big universal truths makes people think and interpret, connecting godly stories with the real moral and ethical challenges people face in life. This makes the texts not just stories, but a bridge between the divine and the everyday struggles and decisions of being human. The stories and ideas in Hindu texts greatly affect stories, religious beliefs, and important fields like star watching, astronomy, and number theory, mathematics in India. The learning tradition in Hinduism, shown in special texts like the Vedas and Upanishads, has helped grow how people in ancient India thought about science. These important texts talk about deep and spiritual questions and explore ideas about numbers and the stars. This shows that how they looked for knowledge was complete, mixing science with spiritual learning. Regarding big questions, Indian philosophy is like a vast ocean of different ideas. There are many ways of thinking in Hinduism, such as Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Samkhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. Each of these philosophies offers deep dives into questions about what's real, what's right and wrong, how we know things, and what the biggest goal of living is. These ideas are special to how people think in India, but are also interesting for everyone everywhere. The way Hinduism talks about these big questions creates a space where people can really get into deep and serious thinking about life and the whole universe. This blending of spiritual and scientific inquiry in Hindu texts shows a unique way of understanding the world that has influenced religious and philosophical thought and the practical studies of the stars and numbers. The integration of such diverse fields of knowledge underlines the richness of Hindu culture in its pursuit of understanding the mysteries of life and the universe. Through the exploration of these ancient texts, scholars and seekers alike find avenues to explore the interconnectedness of all things, the nature of reality, and the pursuit of truth, blending the empirical with the existential in a quest for holistic knowledge. Moreover, the dialogues and discourses in these texts, ranging from poetic narrations to philosophical arguments, enrich the cultural fabric of India, providing insights into the collective consciousness that values both the observable universe and the inner realms of spiritual growth. Let's imagine ancient aliens and their impact on our history. Chapter 5, Impossible Truths, Decoding Alien Clues in Human History. Many people are intrigued by the idea that beings from other planets might have influenced ancient civilizations, and the possibility that long ago advanced technologies existed on Earth. These ideas suggest that extraterrestrial visitors could have come to our planet, helping to shape human progress. They might have left clues in old writings, art, and even in big constructions that are hard to explain if we only think humans were involved. Erich von Däniken is a well-known supporter of these theories. In his books, he talks about how old pictures and writings show things like flying machines and space travelers, which might mean aliens visited Earth. He wonders how people in ancient times were able to do such detailed work on tough materials without the tools we have today. He thinks this could be a sign that aliens helped them. Von Däniken travels to faraway places like the hidden city Buritaca 200 in Colombia, looking for clues to solve these puzzles. His book, Impossible Truths, includes pictures and stories from experts to back up his ideas. He encourages everyone to think about whether there could be truth to the idea that aliens once contacted Earth. These theories open up a lot of questions about our past and the universe. Imagine ancient builders creating massive structures or carving intricate designs with precision we can't even achieve today without the help of modern machinery. This raises the question, how did they do it? According to von Däniken and others who share his views, the answer might lie in the stars. They argue that evidence of alien assistance can be found not just in physical remains, but also in the legends and myths passed down through generations. Moreover, von Däniken's investigations lead him to explore ancient myths and legends, looking for hints of extraterrestrial visitors in stories that have been told for thousands of years. His journey takes him across the globe, from the vast deserts to dense jungles, each place holding its own piece of the puzzle. Through Impossible Truths and his other writings, von Däniken offers a new perspective on history, challenging us to consider the influence of outer space on early human civilization. People have always been curious about life beyond Earth, not just in old stories, but in modern science too. Edward O. Wilson, a famous scientist from Harvard, thought that if there are smart aliens out there, they might act a lot like animals on Earth. He believed they would need to work together in groups to live and grow, just like us. These aliens would probably live on land and be big enough to have a large brain, which means they could be very smart and even understand right from wrong. Scientists also think about how advanced these aliens could be with their technology, maybe much more than us. There's a way to think about this called the Kardashev scale. It sorts civilizations by how well they can use energy. Right now, humans aren't even at the starting level. Aliens might have amazing technology we can't even imagine, like giant energy-catching spheres around stars, living tools made through genetics, or ways to live forever in computers, which are all way different from what we have made. The idea of meeting these alien civilizations is both exciting and a bit scary. We worry about how their germs or ways of living might change ours, or what it would mean if they are much more advanced than us. What would happen if we met them? How would it change us? Talking about these things helps us learn more about the universe and makes us think about our own technology. It makes us ask big questions about how we deal with things we don't know yet and our place in the universe. This curiosity expands our knowledge and makes us reflect on the consequences of our actions and how we face the mysteries of space. From alien clues, we now turn to ancient Earth. What secrets do the long-reigning kings of Sumeria hold? Chapter 6. The Sumerian List. Did ancient kings really live for centuries? The Sumerian king list is a fascinating document that offers a peek into the ancient world of Mesopotamia. It's like a big storybook filled with tales about old kings. Some of these stories are true and some are just made up. This list is special because it shows us how the ancient Sumerians thought about their history. They didn't always worry about what was exactly true or false. Instead, they liked to mix real events with exciting legends. In these stories, some kings ruled for hundreds of years. That's probably not true, but it tells us that the Sumerians greatly admired their kings. They thought their rulers were almost like superheroes. This is why they made up stories about them living for such a long time. It was their way of showing respect and admiration. The Sumerian king list isn't just about kings, though. It also tells us about big events like floods and wars. Some of these events might have really happened, but the Sumerians added their own spin to the stories. It's like they were using these tales to explain the world around them. They used stories to make sense of things they didn't understand, like why bad things like floods happen. Studying the Sumerian king list is a bit like being a detective. Historians and scientists look at these old texts and try to figure out what's real and what's not. They compare the stories in the list with other things they know about the past. Sometimes they find clues in other places, like in the ruins of ancient cities or in old artworks. The way the Sumerians wrote down their history can seem strange to us, but it's important to remember that long ago, people didn't always write history to be super accurate. They wrote it to teach lessons, entertain, and remember their heroes. So when we read the Sumerian king list, we're not just learning about what happened long ago. We're also learning about how the Sumerians saw the world and what they thought was important. For example, when they wrote about a king who ruled for a long time, they might have been trying to say that this king was really important or good at his job. It was their way of giving him a big thumbs up. And when they mixed in stories about gods and magical events, they showed that they believed the world was full of mysteries and wonders. The Sumerian king list helps us understand how ancient people connected their lives to the world around them. They saw their kings as part of a bigger story that included gods, nature, and the stars. It's a reminder that how we tell our history can say a lot about what we believe and think is important. This mix of myths and facts in the Sumerian king list is like a window into the minds of people who lived thousands of years ago. It's pretty cool to think about how they saw their world and tried to make sense of it all with the stories they told. Delving into the study of ancient texts is both exciting and challenging. People who specialize in this field often ponder over several questions. They wonder whether these old writings are real or fake, if they have been translated correctly, and if we truly grasp what they were meant to say. To find answers, these experts carefully examine how people wrote in the past, look closely at the texts, and try to figure out what they mean. This thorough investigation is very important. It helps us figure out if a part of the text is using a figure of speech or stating something directly, if it's meant to be funny or sarcastic, and how the meanings of words have changed over time. It's vital to get these small details right to truly understand history. Historians and scholars have a step-by-step method for their research. They start by collecting as much information as possible about the time and place the text was written. This means looking into that era's culture, government, economy, and social situations. They also learn about the writer's life to better understand their origins and what might have influenced their writing. The language in old texts often differs greatly from the languages we speak today. People studying these texts need to know a lot about ancient languages and writing styles to read and understand them correctly. For instance, to read ancient Egyptian writings, you need to know a completely different way of writing than what we're used to now. Experts also use science to figure out how old manuscripts are and where they came from. They use methods like carbon dating, which can tell us when a document was written. Looking at the ink and paper can also give hints about whether the text is genuine and from which time period it comes. Another important thing to understand is how historical events are described in these writings. Different cultures and times had their own ways of recording events, and this can change how we interpret old texts. For example, some ancient societies used a lot of exaggerations when talking about events, which could be misunderstood by modern readers if taken literally. Public historians work in places like museums and government offices. They use their knowledge to help people understand and relate to history. Their job is to make history interesting and relevant to everyone. The first known writing system comes from Mesopotamia, now part of Iraq, and dates back to around 8000 to 3500 BCE. It was first used to keep track of things like trades and stocks, but over time, these writings became more complex and started to look like spoken language around 3000 BCE. Writing is a way humans communicate using visible signs that are related to spoken language. It shows language rather than direct thoughts, and includes different levels like sentences, words, syllables, and the basic sounds of speech. The development of writing systems is a key part of human history. It shows how people learn to represent the different parts of spoken language in written form. What is the most important ancient book to you? Let us know in the comments, smash that like, and subscribe for more.